Well, good morning, everyone. My colleague is, I believe, coming online with us. I am Lena Matese, and Jessica and I are thrilled to be with you today. Just a shout out to some of my friends who are online with us. Hello, and I'm sure I'm sure I'm going to miss some people, but Jessica and I are associated with an MBA program at UWSP. So Kari and Jerry are with us. Good morning, and then some of my professional friends, Stephanie and Ann. Glad to see you. Marcia Tepp teaches at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point along with me, and is also an alumni, you might say, of Century, where Jessica is from, and then Kayla, one of the alums of our undergraduate program. It's been a while since we've hung out together. It's nice to have you here. Jessica, do you want to say hello to any of your friends? Did you see any names scrolling by?
You hit the ones that caught my eye as well, and I so appreciate their taking an interest in our session this morning. So thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us, and to everyone else that's joining as well.
So do you want to say a little bit about yourself, Jessica, your career, and what qualifies you to be my mentor?
Oh, yes, and then please do the same, Lena, because you're definitely qualified to be my mentor. Lena and I were put together through an act of fate and destiny, and it all centers around the MBA program at UW-Stevens Point that Lena is the director for. It's an absolute gift to me in my career to have the opportunity to get an MBA with an emphasis in applied leadership and decision making at this point in my career. Having an MBA was always a goal of mine. And now that I've spent more than 20 years in the banking and insurance industry, it's the perfect time for me to have this opportunity. And I'm so grateful to Lena and the leadership and guidance that she's provided and the tough conversations we're able to have together.
Yeah, I feel the same way about tough conversations. COVID time has hit me kind of hard, and Jessica has really been challenging my point of view on that. And really, in many ways, I love it when we read the same books. We see them differently, we see them similarly and differently. And Jessica comes back and helps me understand a different point of view. And I would say that that is her primary qualification to be my mentor, is her expansive thinking and her ability to help shift my mind and heart and being around something. It's been really powerful for me. As Jessica said, I direct the MBA program at UWSP, and I'm a leadership and organization development professional, and I love to play in this space. One thing that's different about our program is that we built leadership development into our curriculum, and so we have 3 one-credit classes where I get to hang out with every single person in our program and companion them in their leadership development. And what's, that sounds so one way, and I think, right, and I thought it was going to be one way. And as the other women on this call from our program can attest, it's been very two-way. And Jessica and I have actually been pretty intentional about that. Jessica captured my attention very early on in the process. Actually, during the admit process, Jessica sent me an article about women in finance, and I was immediately struck by the fact that Jessica knew more about many things than I did, and I needed to pay attention. That's Jessica's qualification. She knows a lot, and she captivated me, and I wanted to pay attention. We thought you might like to know about our process. So our presentation is about dialogue, and it's about how we have been learning to co-mentor one another to really avoid or work with the dynamics of power. Both Jessica and I have long careers. I have a 25-year marketplace career in addition to being a late in life professor. And maybe this has happened to you. I'm 50, this is my 53 year, I'll be 53 in December. And when I started my career, I was one of the only or one of the few women in the room or at the table. And I would say we didn't always know how to support each other, and we didn't always understand how the power dynamics worked for us or against us. And so learning to be in this power sharing role with women has been a struggle over my entire career. I'm going to draw your attention. This is our session agenda, but I want to draw your attention to the middle paragraph here because this is what we're really talking about. Joseph Rost has this great definition of leadership that I think has stood the test of time. An influence relationship among leaders and followers who intend real change that reflect their mutual purpose. So in our story, Jessica and I both intend, we have the purpose of transformation, a shared purpose. I want to transform our economic region through the MBA program. Jessica, I think, intends to transform her life as a leader. So we share that. And then real changes need to happen in both of our lives and in our community. And so what we decided to do was to be very intentional about dynamically exchanging this leadership and follower role. Jessica, I know you want to say a little bit more about that.
Oh, I love this image you found, Lena. It's my favorite in this whole presentation. So there's an author that I admire deeply, Lisa Bevere, and she wrote a great book called Lioness Arising. And in that book, she tells us lionesses are the only large cats who hunt as one. Lionesses hunt together. They are highly skilled huntresses. Each lioness takes her position and perfects her hunting skills in the company of her pride's sisters. Male lions have been known to rush into a herd in an attempt to take down whatever they can. But lionesses do not rush. They dance. Their coordinated hunt is breathtaking. Reflect on that for a moment. Just visualize that. Lionesses hunt, no dance, together.
So I think this is right. This quote is ripe for a bit of reflection from all of us. So we are going to put a question in the chat, and we'd love to hear from all of you this morning. So if we are lionesses, right, and this is saying that we're lionesses together requires us to step into our power. And so if we are that together, and if we dance together in this, if we have the opportunity to dance together in this space, one of the things that we're really interested in is what prey do we hunt together? So think about that and answer. Kimberly's already got a response in here, success. If you believe that we are all lionesses, what prey do we hunt together? And if so, I don't know if you can come and tell us how to get to the chat. Some people might not know that.
Sure. The chat is available in the lower right-hand corner. You should see a purple button with two arrows pointing to the left. If you click on there, you will see a little chat bubble icon, and you'll be able to type your messages in there. There's also a variety of emoticons in there that people can use as well.
Oh, great. Here we go. Thank you, Steve. That was great. Success, recognition of all we do, the result of making our world a better space in terms of workplace, community, volunteerism, gender norms, respect, the change we envision, partnerships. So Jessica, I'm just curious, as you're looking over this list, where did you find the most success or challenge in some of the themes that are coming up from our colleagues?
So these are very aspirational goals. These are very big topics, but it doesn't have to be prey that's this large, right? What if it's just as simple as meeting a business objective together? I mean, it can be the nuts and bolts. I love these suggestions people are making, but don't limit yourself to the things that are hard for all of us as women. Yes, we'll work together on those, but help other women in your space do the day-to-day work too.
Well, that's really interesting. So that probably this is a good chance to show you what our dialogic sharing looks like, because I'm very big picture and idealistic, and so what's happening for me is that Jessica's being practical, being action oriented is I'm feeling a little bit of challenge in my belly right now around a challenge to my dream orientation, right? So let's pick one of these apart. Which one are you attracted to, Jessica? Let's play with this for a minute.
So I love that Stephanie says movement to our common goal, and we get into that later on, right?
Perfect. So if we're working on something, let's just say this presentation, For me, we have a common goal, I think, around leadership and our region. I think we both want our region to be even more economically successful. Is that true?
Absolutely, yes. That's what brings us together in the bigger space.
So, and I brought this presentation forward for us to do, and then Jessica, because I'm so crazy busy, Jessica had to pull us through all the tactical pieces. So I'm curious, how was that for you?
It was fine once I realized you were okay with me taking that power over. So that's part of this, right? And maybe this is a good time to click to our next slide and talk about some of these topics. And there's all these things, and we need to have good communication channels between us to tackle these wicked problems.
Good. So I love this. I love this slide. So as we're choosing what is our shared purpose, is it more dream oriented? Is it more tactical and specific? And how are we going to hunt that prey? So what's the prey? How do we each frame the prey? And is it worth going hunting together? One of the things that we keep talking about as leaders in our program is the difference between tame and wicked problems. And tame problems feel fantastic to solve because they're methodical and we can check them off the list and we feel like we're accomplishing things. They also, though, get really boring because who wants to keep showing up and working really hard on only the predictable parts? In our time right now, we have found ourselves in I think, a wonderfully wicked time. Wicked problems are ones where the answer depends. There could be 4 or 5 or 7 right answers depending on how we approach that issue. And if you look around this dial, you'll see some of the assumptions about tame or wicked problems. I should say at this point that at the very top of the chat, we've given you 3 resources, and one of them is a wonderful resource from Stanford on this notion of wicked problems. So again, Jessica and I have a question for you that we'll put in chat. Do you encounter more tame or more wicked problems in your leadership? And remember, we frame leadership big way. We think it's where you show up to get paid, and in your home and in your community, all those spaces that you're showing up. So do you want to put that question in chat for us, moderators? Yeah, there we go. We will share the links again, Marcy. We'll do that we'll do that at the end of this chat. We'll share the wicked link. Yeah, there we go. Awesome. Look at that. So awesome, Stephen. Thank you. So, oh, good. Jerry's answer to the question, do you encounter more tame and more wicked problems? Jerry said depends on the day and maybe the hour, right? And Stephanie says many wicked all at the same time. Kimberly says wicked. Yeah, wicked. Oh, look at this. Kimberly's got it. Wicked allows for more collaboration and understanding of the different perspectives and mindsets. I think that's awesome. I think that's a good transition into our next slide. So feel free to keep answering that question. Yeah, Julie, I agree. During the pandemic, more wicked. So Jessica, using what Kimberly said, how can you use that to transition into this notion of being dialogic we've been using?
What a great transition. I feel like these women are joining us and helping us with this presentation, and it's awesome. I love when we're sharing power together. We don't do it enough. So our rules of engagement, this is a theme that Lena's been teaching us as MBA students over the course of all of our content, all of our formal learning, is the rules of engagement and what we call dialogic leadership. So through our MBA program, we're reflecting on our informal webbed networks, our ability to influence, and the roles that people play within a conversation. While we each do have a default role that we like to rely on where we feel most comfortable, you each have the power to choose which role you play, what best suits the situation, the topic, your overall leadership goal. That's what dialogic leadership is. So we've got this graphic here and the 4 different positions that you can play, that you can choose in every conversation you have. And I loved what we learned in our class this last week with Lena's friend and guest, Jenny Riggenbach, where she talked about her need to assess each situation and choose mindfully. So you can be a mover, you can initiate and provide direction, you can be a follower, which supports and provides completion, you can be an opposer, which challenges and provides correction, or you can be a bystander, which observes and provides perspective.
Do you want to say a little bit about, this is where it gets fun. So this all sounds fine, right? It's a model and it's documented and you can learn it, but it's really in the experimentation, and particularly in a relationship that matters to you. So Jessica, talk a little bit about our default moves.
So this is where, even though Lena's an extrovert and I'm an introvert, which again, you know, the diversity in our differences and our ability to strengthen each other, we're very similar in this role. We are movers and opposers, and those are what we're most comfortable doing, and I love that. I love that we share that perspective on things, even though that's not always the best choice. That's what we default to.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it's all sounding fine now until, so we decided a few months into our relationship to be connected on social media. So we're Facebook friends, and Jessica made a post that I would say was mildly inflammatory. I think it was for me, it was towards the end of both of our days, and it probably wouldn't be wrong to say that at first I was vulnerable and then I got on a high horse. Are those good phrases, Jessica?
I would not have judged you that harshly, but yes, I could embrace that definition of it.
And so we moved off of Facebook and we had some challenging messenger messages back and forth as we were both in our mover opposer. And as we debriefed that conversation later, a few days later, one of the things that I noticed about myself is, and you see this, Stephanie says here in the chat, Stephanie says, we can be all of these with the same team at different times, and that's where my insight came, that I had neglected to use my follower and bystander, because when we got into what was behind the post that Jessica made, there was a lot more going on that if I could have understood that if I had better chosen, right? If I hadn't just led with my default response, if I had either been a follower or a bystander, we would have had an entirely different conversation. And so I think for me, part of our mutual mentoring has really been an acts of self-leadership. What would you say about that, Jessica?
I love that. I love this model because I'm a very practical, logical person most of the time. I lead with logic, but there's aspects here that my heart and my emotions do play into, and it's really good to have this to reflect on when something doesn't go the way I thought it would. Like, what could I have done differently in that conversation, and what role did I take, and why was that not the right decision? And as well as celebrating the ones that do. I mean, there's a lot of reason to reflect on the successes as well, because that's all part of learning and developing as a better person and a better professional.
Yeah, I love that. So folks, we'd love to know, what is your default move? Jessica and I have just revealed our default moves. So if you want to post your default move, that would be awesome. We'd love to hear that. We've got some more friends on the program. I saw Shannon join and Quinn join. So nice to have you come in. The chat again is that purple bubble. Just let us know what your default moves are. I think default moves are interesting. I don't know about you, how it works for you, but sometimes I become hostage to my default move, right? My leadership is in fact a hostage situation. And so we're seeing some posts from people here. Do you ever end up in a hostage situation, Jessica?
Yes, absolutely. And that's again where the MBA program came along at the right time, because I didn't realize how much I was holding myself hostage until these types of ideas and conversations started to happen.
Yeah, I love that. There's an interesting pattern showing right now. We have a preponderance of movers. Not everyone is saying movers, but a lot of people are offering to, and mover is coming up. I think that's interesting. I wonder, I think we are a gathering of movers, I'm guessing. That's just really interesting. There was another comment too, that sometimes developmentally in our career, so I think it was Marcy who said, I was one way earlier in my career, I'm another way now. Let's see. Yeah, Marcia Tabb is a mover and a poser. Now, Quinn, one of our friends in the program, says she's a bystander. And this bystander piece can be so powerful. Quinn is an entrepreneur and an owner of an amazing shop in Stevens Point called Assembly Shop. You can shop online there if you want to Google Assembly Shop. But one of the things that Quinn has been doing, and I think her bystander role allows her to do this so well, is starting important conversations about what's happening in our nation around race. And I've been learning quite a bit from those conversations, just really enjoying them. They are available on her Instagram as well for, again, Assembly Shop. So every one of these positions has power. And I think for Jessica and I, we're learning to share power. That's what we're in the middle of learning to do together, and to be intentional about leading ourselves so that we're available for one another. So we found in our conversations with one another that there are 3 conditions necessary then for us to be able to embrace this mutual mentorship. We have to be able to trust each other. We have to respect one another, especially when it gets slightly inflammatory. And we have to keep coming back to our shared goals.
And I just want to focus a little bit of time on the trust aspect, because for me, that is the critical piece. I've been burned a lot in the past, both personally and professionally, with relationships and people taking action that ended up hurting or harming me. Not necessarily physically, I don't want to give that impression, but trust to me is what it all comes back to, that there's a willingness to go deep with each other, that we it is part of respect, but it starts with unequal roles that you intentionally equalize, because there's this observation that you both bring something to the table, that you both have a different experience and different things to draw from in your deep well of potential and life. So to me, it's always trust. What about you, Lena?
What I'm thinking about right now is, I was just with a group of leaders yesterday, a leadership team, and we were thinking through attributes and competencies that this leadership team wants to be displaying in their leadership over the next year. And one of the things that we were talking about is the multiple scales of trust. And so Jessica and I have decided to trust each other in a world, in the society that feels kind of untrustworthy. And actually that's
very risky, right? I mean, it's a risky thing to do. It's a bet we're placing on each other.
Yeah. Because, and again, this is where sometimes our conflicts arise and our differences arise, is because in the world that we don't feel like we can trust right now, the number of changes that are coming, the kind of unrest, the kind of ambiguity that's available to us in a pandemic, or in a changing organization, or in a business that isn't thriving like it could be, right? All of those contextual external forces, when that untrustworthiness acts on us, it's hard to stay in this space. So let's talk about this. Do you find yourself either powering up or powering down? Do you find yourself defaulting when the tensions get high?
I power up, and then I don't always communicate effectively.
Yeah. And so that's probably our biggest risk, right? Is that we just power up on each other. We don't end up hearing each other. So folks, we'd love to know for you, when you look at trust, respect, shared goals, which of these has worked best for you when you have been working with other leaders, particularly with either a mutual mentor, somebody you're mentoring, somebody you're being mentored by. Which of these has worked best for you? And I'm just going to talk a little bit while people respond, so please respond to that question. I think for us, keeping our eye on the prize, right? Keeping our eye on the shared goal has helped us reduce that conflict. So we're seeing trust, so trust and respect are really coming out as, yeah. So, and again, Marcy, lovely. Marcy says respect, then trust. Notice the sequencing. Some of us need sequencing, but trust doesn't always come easy. This is tough, right? So I've been, honestly, I'll pick our conflict apart a little bit. I've been investing some time in Jessica's future success. Maybe I feel like I feel like I need a cookie for that. Like, just a little
cookies anytime, Lena. Just tell me your favorite.
little extra acknowledgement. But when we had our conflict, like it was easy for me to start to power up, right? Like
Well, you're
I
my
was,
professor. I would expect that. I mean, that's the default situation. The professor
yeah,
holds the power.
yeah. So it was hard for me. I'm going to build on what Lisa said here. It was hard for me in that conflict. Lisa says, trust, and it's necessary to be vulnerable. And that's what I ended up having to do, was be vulnerable in our conversations as they unfolded. Do you think that's been true in our relationship? Has vulnerability supported our trust building? I'm just curious.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel like the first time we had a face-to-face conversation about the MBA program and your goals and my goals, we went deep really quickly with each other
Yeah.
and offered that trust. And that was not comfortable for me. That's not something I do very often. It's not something that I take as a risk in my own life very often. So the fact that we both were willing to take that step so early on in getting to know each other was huge for me. And if you're willing to trust me at that level, I absolutely will hold space for you and trust you at that level.
So I think this comes back to storytelling and being willing to share our stories. Like, I've had an amazing life story, but sometimes, sometimes it's hard to tell that story, both the highs and the lows of it. And I have just, I'm 50. It's my 53 year. I'm a little less trying to impress people now, and so it's a little bit easier for me to just tell the truth in my story if people see my messiness. So I think being willing to be messy together. We also
Absolutely.
identified that there are 5 keys to this willingness to be messy, right? Which is really all about diffusing power dynamics, diffusing competition. And for Jessica and I, we have found we have a bit of an urge to fix one another. And so diffusing that. And so there's 5 things that we found in our relationship that supported that. Again, purpose, purpose, purpose. So identifying and keeping our purpose clear. Recognize our unlimited ability to influence, right? That we're not in powerless roles, we're in powerful roles, and to keep reminding one another of that. That we need to ask one another and ask others for help, and that asking for help is indeed a sign of strength. Help me understand that. Help me better understand. That's one of the things, the key question stems that Jenny Riggenbach helped us better understand. Also acknowledging and celebrating the differences and our diversity equals a better outcome. So not saying to Jessica that we should always think about the dream, the big picture, but actually being like, whew, yeah, okay. Do you have the path? Right? So that there really is a difference between us, and then being grateful for each other. So those are the 5 things. Jessica, what do you want to focus on?
Yeah, I really want this group of women leaders in different roles, different industries, to really recognize your unlimited ability to influence. Many of us work in companies that are still very hierarchical. There's leaders and there's followers. Realize that influence is where you can carve space for yourself. You can grow your own power. We lift each other up as women, and don't leave the men out. You can lift up the men too, but that carries, in a hierarchical company, if someone lifts someone up, it's almost perceived that the lifter has to move downward in order to exert that force upward, and it's not true. We need to work together to defeat that bias so that more of us in the workplace, in our personal lives, can be influencers and achievers. And I just think that's something I really want this group to take away from this presentation, because there's so much there to unwrap.
I love that. So lift. And so we work with another question for you. We really just wanted to hang with you. That's why we scheduled this session. We're curious, folks, which of these, if you look at these 5, which has worked best for you as you think about that? I think it's so easy when someone's different than you to put your foot on their head or their hand instead of reaching out a hand. I don't know if
I don't know about you, Lena, but I love to be right. And if someone is disagreeing with me, then they're just wrong. And I want to be right.
Yeah. I love that. Right? It's not your unlimited ability to power up or control, right? It's our our unlimited ability to influence, to lift one another up. Yeah, Lisa's saying 100% celebration of differences. So, Lisa, I'd love to hear directly from you. If you would like to come off chat and say a little bit about your 100% celebration of differences, we'd love to hear from you. You can just raise your hand, and then our moderators will let you come in. Please raise your hand. Oh, there, good. Lisa's gonna join in and say a little bit more about this.
Okay, Lisa, you should be able to unmute yourself. Towards the bottom of the screen below the PowerPoint, you'll see a little microphone icon. If you click on that, that should turn on your mic.
We've got some great responses coming in. Gratefulness, gratitude. Kimberly says that being grateful has been a plus to me. Expressing gratitude can shift the relationship in a positive way that you see a change in the person. I am so with you, Kimberly. Lisa, are you with us? Oh, it's not letting. Okay, so Lisa's going to check her settings. So if you get it, feel free to come off mute. We'd love to hear from you. Yeah, we're going to try one more time because I really want to hear your voices too. So Kimberly, do you think you can come off mute if you want to raise your hand? And we'd love to hear a little bit about being grateful. Oh, Lisa might be trying to. We'd love to hear from both of you, Lisa or Kimberly. I know it's dead air, but I'm just so excited to talk to people. So Kimberly, are you with us? Oh, no.
Kimberly, it looks like your mic is on.
Can anyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
You made it through.
Because I'm like, wait a second, why isn't it not working? But to elaborate a little bit more on my comment, and as an example to structure what I'm intending to say, I put in my employer, we have an internal social media, and employees can post just about any and everything that relates to either personal or professional life. And one day last week, I can't remember when, but I just felt led to put something on the company's social media because everyone works in different areas of the business. Some are out in the field, some are in the admin side, finance, IT, and the list goes on. And I posted something to the equivalent of, you may not have heard it yesterday, last week, last month, or last year, but I want to take time to give thanks to you for the things that have gone unnoticed. And I don't think, whether it's men or women, I don't think it's expressed enough. There's a lot of recognition to those that have done something that made a big difference, but saying thank you or expressing gratitude, even the smallest things, it changes a person and how they feel and the effort that they bring forth into whatever it is that they want to do, because we all want to feel appreciated in some form of fashion. So just being grateful and expressing gratitude, you can see how that person will end up changing if you just share it a little bit more.
That is powerful. So we're talking about this fifth bullet here, and Kimberly, you now have a phrase in my head. So as you were talking, what I was taking in is a good word. How powerful a good word is, and how much power we have to be able to offer that in the everyday things.
And the ability for people to feel visible. That's all about gratitude, right? And I love the way Kimberly put it forward for us to think about. Everyone wants to feel visible. Everyone wants to feel that their work is meaningful. And that's where gratitude can really fill that gap. So many people don't feel appreciated.
Yeah, Kimberly, you've got some hearts and agreements in the chat. I don't know if you're looking at that, but you've got some support. Kari says, thank you so much for sharing. Really appreciate that. and says, strive to raise up others, to empower them versus lowering or giving up your own power. And I think that happens, don't you? Like when Jessica and I are tempted to get locked into this agreement, right? This head-to-head agreement issue, we're both giving away our own power, right? We're channeling power into the conflict instead of channeling power into our purpose.
Yep.
Stephen,
Yep, so
can
to
you
be
just
mindful.
try one more time and see if Lisa can get in?
I was just chatting with her, and looks like she has the microphone option. So, Lisa.
Right.
Hi there,
And
this is Lisa.
I'm sorry, this is Kimberly again. Sorry to cut you off, Lisa. I want
Go
to
for
share
it.
one last thing, and this was in addition to the post that I've made, and I'm also putting it in the chat. If you want to walk fast, walk alone. If you want to walk far, walk together.
So say that one more time.
Absolutely. If you want to walk fast, walk alone. If you want to walk far, walk together.
That's right. That is
I
really
love that.
nice. I think that's what
Kimberly,
Jessica
will
and
you be my friend? About finding a friend. Kimberly, I'm your friend. I mean that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm not exactly sure who said that, but sure.
That was Jessica.
Jessica.
She's on Facebook. When we're both on LinkedIn as well. So Lisa.
Hi,
Hi, welcome.
thank you. I've just learned over many years. I think what Stephanie just said about walking together is so true. It's really easy to surround ourselves with people who seem like us and have our same abilities, but really I've learned that when we truly grow as individuals and as a team is when we hire for and select people to be parts of our team that have different attributes and qualities and strengths and skills that we don't ourselves have, which really not only allows ourselves to grow and learn from that, but really makes for a really dynamic team.
Yes. So I just want to. I'm going to reveal what our latest conflict was over. It was over masking, and I have some reasons to be afraid. And Jessica was really picking up on that fear from me. I'm a higher risk. I'm in a higher risk category. My roommate's also in a higher risk category. So that led me to read her post in a certain way versus what you just encouraged, Lisa. So this is so powerful. It sounds all happy and fine to embrace people who are different or hire people who are different until they annoy you. Right? So Lisa, how do we do that? How do we dig in? So you're talking about selection and who were, that first level of difference, but what does level 2 look like?
For our team, we found that we really needed to learn to be vulnerable with each other, learn that we're all on the same team. And with being vulnerable, once you do that, people know where you're coming from. They can understand you better and recognize that having that trust, that vulnerability builds that trust. And once you have that, then you're able to go a step further and then really dig into some of the more challenging topics or conversations.
Yeah. So I'm going to say something outrageous and provocative, but what if vulnerability is our superpower as women? Think about how tough we have to be in the multiple spaces we show up, in the multiple identities the culture has asked us to stand in. And what if this vulnerability and this willingness to be different together gives us the power to lead? Did any of you see the statistics? They did a study recently on the 19 women that are leading countries right now, and they paired them with a nation next to them, and then they looked at what was happening in the leadership from women who were leading the nations or men who were leading the nations. And I believe that this sensitivity and this empathy towards the vulnerability of others is what in those 19 nations have led the women to rise as more capable leaders right now in this crisis. So thank you so much, Lisa. Anything you want to say, Lisa, before you go back on mute?
No, I'm happy to keep listening. Thank you.
Yeah, we're glad you're here. Glad for joining the conversation. So Maria is hopping off, but she's agreeing. She's saying trust, vulnerability, and gratitude. Maria, we're glad you're here. So we've got about 18 minutes left, and we've got just one more set of. So I'll just go back through it. We've shared 3 conditions necessary. We've talked about 5 keys to diffusing power, competition, fixing. And now we want to talk about 4 techniques that we found have really helped us intentionally create the conversations that we've had. And I think it comes back to this piece of vulnerability. It's about taking risks first. And then those risks look like the risk to support, the risk to magnify, and the risk to sharpen.
I love those words. Those are powerful words, especially magnify and sharpen. And right, I zone in on magnify, although sharpen is where Lena's conflict with me kind of comes into play more and more as you know, we kind of clash and sharpen each other. But magnify to me is absolutely the fact that one woman's light doesn't have to dim in order for a woman's light to shine. I just think that's a powerful image. I'm a person that sees first. I love the visual aspects of things, and to me that is such a powerful analogy for us to walk away from this with.
Did you see Kimberly's comment? Look at this, Jessica. Kimberly says, magnify with your smile, sharpen with your body language, support with your voice. Oh, I think you've got the book, Kimberly. That is awesome. And so the question we'd love to hear from you in chat when you look at these 4. So taking risks is number 1, and then the bullet items below. Which of these has worked best for you? And while you're answering in chat, I just want to read again what Kimberly said, because this is magic. Magnify with your smile. Sharpen with your body language. Support with your voice. That was pretty nice. Kimberly's just whipping them off over there. So Christy says sharpen. Anyone else want to share? Yeah.
As people are joining in chat, and please tell us, because we want to know if these resonate with you. There's a proverb that says iron sharpens iron, and I just love that analogy. I mean, with women and with relationships and with our power, you know, we're iron sharpening iron, and the clash and the conflict can throw off sparks. But that to me is the sharpen analogy.
Yeah, you've got some agreement there. Both Christy and Sally are agreeing with the sharpen. Leanne says support and magnify.
So here's this image again, this powerful lioness image, and I just, again, well, I'm glad we're ending with this visual. And here's our call to action for you as women leaders. Lena already mentioned that I'm the action-oriented person. I'm always looking for the steps. Knowledge to me isn't any good unless we actually use it, right? So this is our call to action. Our mutual mentorship, and hopefully mutual mentorship for you, is challenging, rewarding, hard, scary, fun. I hope that you see that while it is definitely a risk, it is worthy and beautiful. I hope you leave our session today thinking about who you can enter into a mutual mentorship with, going back to the trust, the respect, the mutual goals, how the 2 of you will hunt together through shared power, lifting each other up, magnifying, and that your mutual prey can and will be part of each of you getting your dream.
I love that phrase, get your dream. That's something that Jessica's been using the whole time that we've been in relationship with each other, and that inspires me every time she writes about it or talks about it, and that we can in fact get our dreams together. Shannon has this lovely thing that she said in the chat. She said there are 2 ways to spread light. Be the candle, right? Be the candle, so you feel that in the wind and the candle. It's beautiful, right? That kind of light, or the mirror that reflects it. The mirror that reflects it. And this is a quote by Edith Wharton. And I think we've been mirrors for each other. So
Absolutely.
we've got about 14 minutes left, and we'd love to hear from you. So what comments would you like to make? What would you like to add to our conversation? Thinking about your power and how you play in a pack of lionesses, how you hunt. What do you want to say? And what do you want to ask us? So please just fill in the chat. Are you seeing chat, Jessica?
I am, and while they're thinking about that and starting to respond, I do have one more quote that I want to share with this group. It was also included in the book Lioness Arising by Lisa Bevere, and it's from Matthew Arnold, who was a 19th century poet and philosopher, and he wrote, "If ever there comes a time when the women of the world come together purely and simply for the benefit of mankind, it will be a force such as the world has never known."
One more time. That's really good.
If ever there comes a time when the women of the world come together purely and simply for the benefit of mankind, it will be a force such as the world has never known. It gives me chills every time I say it, every time I read it.
And look at what Christy wrote. I mean, I think what Christy is saying here is that we can't let the places that we disagree, and I would add the places that we're different, keep us from achieving the quote that Jessica just shared.
And Marcia, it means so much to me that you joined us. And I have to admit to this group, and I hope you're okay with it, that we've moved and opposed together in the past. And it means so much to me that you've joined us and provided your input.
Yeah, so we're getting great comments. If anybody has questions for us, we've got about 12 minutes left. We'd love to answer any questions. We'll share out some of the comments. I know you want to talk about Kimberly's comment, Jessica.
Oh, absolutely. And I think Kimberly must have listened yesterday, right? Marianda was with us yesterday, and she talked about roaring and roaring intentionally, and I was so pleased and so blessed that we could follow that, because this theme is emerging. You know, we're lionesses. We can roar, and we should roar together. So absolutely.
Folks, if you want to take a look in the chat, you might want to grab this link that Marcy just shared. She shared a Holly Near song called 1000 Grandmothers. So you might want to grab that song. I'm not familiar with it.
My friend Jennifer just thanked me, and that means a lot that she chose an hour out of her day to spend with me. She's my coworker. We balance each other out.
So we're getting lots of praise. I think, oh, I love it. This is so nice. So our friends from the NBA are chiming in as well. So I think I just want to do one thing. Well, since there aren't any questions, and we'll end in just a minute here, because it's always nice to give people time back in their life. Just remember that we've put 3 resources for you in the chat. One is a marvelous little article. It's very brief, by a gentleman named William Isaacs. William Isaacs grew up with Peter Senge and some of the people out of MIT that were questioning, how do we change systems? How do we impact systems for the good? And so out of the systems thinking movement, and this piece that he wrote about dialogic leadership is amazing. The other piece that I think is really interesting, I was transformed, and Jenna, if you want to just repaste the resources, that would be great. I was transformed by this notion of wicked problems pretty early on in my career. And I think the resource that I gave you from Harvard, you will find helpful and interesting. Or Stephen, if you could reshare those resources, that would be great. There they are. So the first resource is definitional. This is Joseph Rost's study of the definition of leadership. And while it's dated, it's still a fantastic resource, because I think his definition is spot on and we're still living into it. Then there's the dialogic leadership piece that I was sharing. And then, again, this notion of are problems tame or wicked? And I have to say, I think maybe I was looking for more tame problems when I was younger, because it aligned with being an idealist. And this notion of wicked problems has been transformative to me. Jessica, how about you? What's been your history with tame and wicked?
Oh, I love wicked. I love that word. I'm a person that's always drawn to the villains, their story, and are they really villains? And I just think this wicked is just such a interesting way to define things. And tame is boring. Tame has always been boring to me. So wicked goes with the wild. and what really unleashes us and gets us out of tame.
Yeah, I love that. So I think we're probably, we're not getting any questions, and we're probably ready to end, but I want to end with Sarah's comment. So Sarah has said in the chat, she said, such a wonderful session. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us today. I hope you both start a podcast.
I love it.
And I do love it, but I want to say why I love it. I've gone back to the slide. This is such about our unlimited ability to influence, that when we are being powerful together as women, we are lifting each other up to levels we hadn't seen. I never would have thought about a podcast, and I don't know that that's something Jessica and I can pursue, but how lovely
of you. That's really scary to me. I'm just going to say, this whole session was scary to me. I'm an introvert.
Yeah. And there's Kayla. Kayla, it's so lovely to have you here. We had a great time when we hung out during your undergrad, and I'm glad you're well. I follow you on LinkedIn. So I guess I'll end with that. Both Jessica and I are on LinkedIn, and so I'll just give you the correct spelling of our names. So Jessica, do you want to wrap up while I type?
Yes, I just want to say that I really approached this session knowing how much I trust Leah, knowing how much I knew we had a meaningful message that we wanted other women to think about, because we kind of stumbled upon this concept. It seemed unique and original to us, and I really wanted us to have an ability to share that idea forward. And this to me felt like a giant coffee break in my day. I hope you felt that way as well. I hope you felt like you were sitting at my kitchen table enjoying a cup of coffee with me, and I really appreciate your attention. I think this has been a gift to all of us.
So our closing wish, I think, is that may you all surround yourself with contagious and powerful women. Let's hunt. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.